Noir has really resurfaced in the last couple years in the gaming space. The gritty city life with dark twists and insane subject matter also seem to be paired more often lately. The story goes from what would be a traditional detective plot into an otherworldly mystery about the nature of our world and the devious plots that lie below. The art style is stunning and the character designs are nice, but ultimately the writing falls apart under the weight of the story's primary focuses. But what do I mean by that? Before I explain all of it, I'm going to be unraveling the mysteries of our world and discovering what this game has to say about life itself with Backbone. A couple weeks ago I played a game called Genesis Noir that suffers a lot of the same problems as Backbone. It has a cool art style, some interesting premises, but fails to tackle the subject matter it introduces effectively. Backbone starts off innocent enough, a detective that's trying to make ends meet and drinks away the sorrows of his life. But everything changed when his most recent assignment got him wrapped up in a giant conspiracy that ended up being his own demise. This type of idea, strangely enough, has become more and more of a trend in video game storytelling as time goes on. Night in the Woods has the main character feeling lost in life after dropping out of college, only to find out the secrets of her small town's death cult. Life is Strange tackles a teen coming back to her old town as well, but when she witnesses the death of her best friend, she discovers her ability to rewind time and the story goes from there. Undertale to some degree has a similar twist at the very beginning, with the facade of a playful, happy world crumbling before your eyes. Even Firewatch, a game I also covered on this channel a while back when my mic quality was worse than it is now, has the twist of a dad who exiled himself into the wilderness after the loss of his son. All of these games employ a similar plot element that shakes the very foundations of the storytelling, and some are even unrelated to the game's themes. Each story implements this idea to varying degrees of success. Night in the Woods is in my opinion weakened by its twist because of how much it detracts from the very visceral story about growing up that was already being told. Of course, it's cool to see how the darker elements are hidden and betrayed throughout the story, but the more the game goes on, the less the story has to say about many of its central themes. Still a good game though, don't get me wrong. Life is Strange is able to successfully blend its twist into the story's main themes, though you could argue it doesn't belong in this group of games. Rewinding time is paired with themes about letting life play out as it is, that life being strange isn't all that bad, or at the very least, you have to be able to accept some level of it. The ending of the game essentially asks you that question. If you decide to save Chloe, you're committing to the idea that the world was better off changed. Life was better off stranger. Firewatch though is an interesting case. Out of all the games I listed, it has the most similar situation to Backbone. They both start off with our main characters in their present mindset. Each of them have a routine. Henry's being a new lookout, and Howard is continuing his detective work. But soon after you start playing, things take a turn. The entire world and experience is shifted by one singular event. The story had varying levels of meaning at first, but now everything is framed by the catalyst for exploration. But Backbone doesn't succeed like Firewatch does, at least for me. Firewatch has an extra element to its storytelling, but finding out about a guy hiding out in the woods does in no way take away from the gripping story that Henry is contending with. It's an addition to make it so you not only bond with Delilah, but to allow for breaks in the dark realities of life that are explored. Backbone, on the other hand, is different. The story is all about its twist. It has a straightforward premise, but continues to spiral into madness as the game goes on. The reason I talked about all those other games is because twists and unpredictable world building are not what makes a story effective. I would say Backbone's biggest issue is how convoluted its themes are and how little it tackles them. After Howard discovers the secrets at the bar, the story focuses on his journey to uncovering the truth, and eventually starts to become a commentary on society and philosophies on life. The apes control society and view lower class rodent flesh as a delicacy. The bar owner is using this to gain control over the apes and to find a way to change the natural order of things. But where things get even stranger is with the artifact. According to people in the game, the most concrete thing we know about the artifact is its ability to manipulate DNA of other creatures. This is shown with the lizard people in test tubes. However, the purpose of what they wanted to do with this device is unknown. Did they want to copy the lizard's plan from Amazing Spider-Man and turn the whole city into lizard people as a roundabout way to end racism? Did they want to create superior life forms that would be able to take over and create a better world for everyone? The bar owner claims she wants to overthrow the apes and that she doesn't care who fills their power gap, so long as it's better than what came before. My guess is the artifact had some factor into that plan, but the game doesn't give anything concrete, and Howard comes into this when he accidentally merges with the artifact. He has this growing mass on his back, and after trying to get home, he ends the life of one of his close friends, and after escaping the walls surrounding the city, he dies soon after. The artifact constantly tortures his mind with various thoughts about existence and the nature of reality. Is the past real? Is there really a sense of self, or did we just make it up? Honestly, nothing profound comes from the artifact. It mostly serves as an introducer of ideas, and I have to say, this game is not as profound as some of its parts would like to portray itself to be. The most complex idea it has to say about society is that the elite are bad, and you should do whatever is necessary to attain freedom, but it doesn't go any deeper on this idea, even though the actions taken involve feeding people to cannibals. When it comes to themes about the self and reality, nothing is really explored. All of this commentary comes from the artifact, and all it does is speak in very broken philosophical speech that, when analyzed, doesn't mean much of anything. The other reason I brought up all those other games before is all of them have one thing in common. Each of them have central themes that the stories tackle, and all of them to some degree tackle them in a tangible way. This game does not. Night in the Woods tackles its themes through May, talking with her friends, family, and the town. She has to confront how lost she is, that her mind is losing it, and the people she talks with all speak on the topic directly. Her mom has the perspective that even if the path you had didn't work, or even if you're lost right now, you will be there when you're ready to move forward. Her friends all have lives of their own, and are trying to make it somewhere, while her influence ends up breeding chaos. And the town shows what life will be like if she stays stuck. Some people are stuck in their old ways and can't seem to move on, like the guys at the bar that constantly talk about their favorite team, the Smelters. Over time, one of them starts to break free from the sleepwalking of going to work and watching the Smelters. By the end of the story, one of them is left by themselves, since the other moved away. The story is about the dichotomy of moving on and being stuck, and the game takes a lot of time to tackle its ideas. Backbone leaves all of its ideas out to dry, and portrays introductions to ideas as the same as grand epiphanies. After reading reviews for the game, the consensus seems to be that Act 1 was far better than the rest of the game. It had interesting gameplay elements, branching paths for advancing, and the storytelling was effective at conveying the new characters introduced. But after that point, it becomes linear, and the storytelling takes a nosedive. A mark of a good story, or even what elements are important for writing in general, is making your storytelling tangible. I feel like a lot of stories over time have confused complicated and flowery writing with well-written, effective storytelling. In modern times at least, a lot of writing falls prey to its own hubris. Just because something is worded in a more complicated way doesn't make it any better than a simplified version with the meaning intact. This is not to say creative writing is a negative, but there is a certain type of writing that can really be detrimental to a piece of work. Let's use a sentence as an example. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. That's from Looking for Alaska, in case you're curious. Now, the meaning of that sentence is simple, yet it has its profound elements and is written in a more moving way than just saying forgiveness will help you. But let's rewrite that sentence into a more flowery, complicated version. A tree befalls a grove of sodden leaves, because with triumph of fears and lies in life itself, you will uncover intricacies of such that their opposites are only bequeathed unto you, from allowing the mind's emptiness to beget healing. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. For the most part, honestly, the one I wrote does sound cool at some parts, but the ideas there are no more complex, intricate, or expansive than the one before it at all. This is a problem a lot of stories fall into. They get lost in language with how to make something sound nicer, and how to make each sentence more profound, but the core of it is lost along the way. It's a beautiful thing to create more elegant sentences, and in lots of ways, writing in more complex ways can help better portray your ideas, but doing so just because does not make what's actually being displayed more effective by default. All things considered, the ideas on display in this game are very simple. Themes about society and the nature of our reality have lots of avenues to explore, but unfortunately the story gets lost in its own beautiful art style, interesting world, and its noir aesthetic. I don't want to leave this whole video as a negative critique though. There are elements of this game I really like. The look of this game, for example, is stunning. In particular, the first two acts really blew me away. The way the rain actually drips down your screen almost like you're an outside observer of Howard's life. The way the lights cascade through the downpour, and the environments really pulled me in. I was looking everywhere as the game started, just because I didn't want to leave the environment. Not to say the rest of the game after those sections didn't look good, but I think they didn't capture the magic that the first hour or so had. Also, the music in the first half of the game was amazing. Just like with Genesis Noir, the music helps frame the mood for a lot of the opening sections. And for what it's worth, I thought that gameplay elements in Act 1 were serviceable, and did enough to keep me engaged. Though it was a shame, the game quickly turns into a non-interactive experience after that point. I think this game definitely had potential, but it just didn't hold that potential all the way through. What do you think of Backbone, the story it tells? What do you think about my ideas on storytelling? Let me know in the comments below. I made videos on a lot of the games I mentioned, so I'll leave links to those in the description below. I hope to see you next time.